I'm joined by my friend Langston Moore with Society of St. Andrew. But before we dive into all the good that you guys are up to, rescuing vegetables and such, I have to ask, I know your lovely wife Lisa, with Valentine's on the way, is she a lover of chicken wings or roses? Because you are now in the know that we're on the low of both.
Right. She's actually a chicken wing person, and she actually makes some really delicious chicken wings.
So you know what? You could get a head start on Valentine's Day, Langston, by finding and buying up whatever is left of the chicken wings now, and you could freeze them and then have them for Super Bowl Sunday into your Valentine's Monday. Go and rescue the chicken wings. Although I think folks would get angry at you because they would be standing in line.
I have better things to rescue. I'm sorry.
You have better things to rescue, and that's exactly what you guys do with Society of St. Andrew, not Andrews,
that's
no
right.
S.
That's right.
And you have been, or not you particularly, but your organization has been rescuing vegetables for how long now?
Since 1996 in Mississippi, but since 1979. And we started in Big Island, Virginia. So we've been around for a while in Mississippi.
So when we say rescue vegetables, I mean, I like to think that you go in with your cape and your Superman or your superhero costume and you rescue the squash from their fate, which is kind of true, though. I just don't think there's any costumes involved. But so how does it work? I mean, it's better known as gleaning.
Right.
I think that's a word either you know or you still like, I'm not really following you.
Yeah.
So what is the method of gleaning?
Yeah, so gleaning involves, it's an Old Testament term. Basically, when they preached, the harvesters get the first harvest and leave the rest for the poor and the widows. And so basically it's transitioned today that we have grade outs now because people are snooty about how their food looks, right? But the food is still really
and don't
nutritious.
know it.
Right.
I have to say you don't know it because if you went in to your local grocer and there was like a cucumber versus a cucumber that you get from the farmer's market, sometimes they look totally different even though they are still a cucumber, same nutritional profile, taste the same, everything.
That's right.
We eat and buy with our eyes.
That's exactly right. And so what we do is we have relationships with farmers all across the state. We like to say from Corinth to the coast and from Meridian to the Mighty is where our farmers are. It's the entire state of Mississippi. And last year alone, we gleaned and distributed 1.1 million pounds of food, which is just a remarkable effort. We have reached as far as 3.3 million during the first year of the pandemic, but that's when the farmer to family boxes were around that we got some of. But the relationships with the farmers are truly important, and also with volunteers. We have a method of being able to be in 3 to 5 places at one time because we have volunteers all across the state. So if a farmer calls me, a commercial farmer who maybe planted too much food, had a lot of grade outs, they'll call us and we will activate our network. It's like a rock being thrown into a puddle of water, and then it just ripples. So we're the rock, really the farmer's the rock, and we make the ripples happen. And we'll call people. We'll either rent a truck. We've rented trucks to go get it, or we just call I'll give you an example. In Northwest Mississippi 2 weeks ago, we had 10,000 pounds of sweet potatoes. I called up the Northwest Mississippi Community Foundation. They activated 10 people, and those pallets of sweet potatoes were gone in probably less than an hour. I didn't even leave my office. So we were there. They knew who was representing the organization. And so it's really a hyper-local network of people that we have.
Which is cool to me, Langston, because number one, this food doesn't get stored anywhere. I mean,
Nope.
There's no Society of St. Andrew storage no, place where it's being held and then sort of hub. It literally goes from farm to family within a matter of 24, maybe 48 hours, depending on, if it needs to spend the night on a truck for you guys to get it delivered. And it's not only helping the family, but it's also helping the farmer. So for the farmer who's calling you, I mean, yes, they are donating out of the goodness of their heart, obviously, and some do if they have excess.
Right.
But for a lot of them, what would have happened to this produce had they not had you to call?
It would have gone to the landfill.
Which is
no doubt about it.
mind-boggling to
Yep.
me.
It's either goes to the landfill or they till it up for the next season to put that nutrition back in the
Because
earth.
they have to pay labor. If they were to have to pay labor to come in to pick something
That's right.
that they can't sell, well, that's not good business.
That's right. And we offer, if they can get them, we offer tax credits. So they're actually getting something for their food instead of nothing. And we've had instances, Rebecca, where we've had a trailer load of strawberries about to go bad. And the only reason was because the plant was shut down for the year. They had no way to transport it. They had no labor, but they had it packed up already. So we
Wow.
went in and we rescued those strawberries. And we work with congregations all across the state and different feeding agencies. We worked with over 150 feeding agencies last year. Now, the great thing about that is 80 of those agencies had never gotten our food before. So we grew exponentially last year within our Gleaning Network.
Is part of that, Langston, just people, listening to good things, learning who Society of St. Andrew is and the work that you do, and just making that contact? I mean, because sometimes all it is just having you in your Rolodex, right?
That's right. And, again, we've been around since 1996. It's a bunch of running the pavement, for real. There's only 2 people in my office, and that's every region across the United States that we have, 9 regions. And it's really about relationship building, which is something I love to do. And it's going to visit those churches. It's going to visit Rotary clubs. It's just getting the word out. It's social media, as you know how important that is. So it's basically just a word-of-mouth network.
Can you always use more farmers?
Can we always use more farmers? Yes. I would love to have too many farmers. But, right now we have too many people that are hungry.
Right.
It's just polar opposite, really. And, Feed the Children, which you're familiar with, they did a study back in 2020, I believe, that we've seen a rise in hunger, of course, because of the pandemic, right? But they found out that Jefferson County, Mississippi is the hungriest county in the United States.
Help us with our geography.
Right here in our backyard.
Where is Jefferson County for those?
It's down southwest.
Southwest Mississippi.
Towards Natchez.
I feel like we know all the names, and some of you are like, how do you not know that? There are 82 of them.
Yeah.
And I can't keep up with them all.
Well,
and that's not a laughing matter.
No.
But that's information that when you have it, then you know how to better, rally your troops and pinpoint your resources and organizations to go and sort of help.
Right. And, with such big organizations and churches, we love to rescue food and keep it as close to that farm and that community as we can. So that's why we have so many relationships out in the state that we don't need to be going to South Haven and we don't need to be going to the coast. We have people down there and the food is right there. We just need some highly skilled people that we've trained. But you don't have to be highly skilled to participate in everything that we do. I was
going to say, when you say highly skilled, walk me through those skills, Langston, because I was kind of with you till you hit me on that, and then I'm like, well, I'm not skilled at a whole lot. So let me back away. Oh, okay.
Organization, big time. Knowing your community, knowing where food needs to go, and putting that food there with the resources around you. We like to say that we're not going to go into community and say, here's the food, here's where you need to put it, because we don't know what the resources that community has. But they live there. These people are in those communities. They know where the food needs to go. We trust them, and so far, so good. It's been a great relationship since 1996.
So sometimes the food goes from the farm to, you mentioned, like a food bank or a church that then knows exactly which families to get to. I'm going to assume that that's sometimes like your smaller loads, because you also have these great events called crop drops with Society of St. Andrew, and you have like 40,000 pounds of sweet potatoes, which is mind-boggling to me that there can even be farms that large to where you may have that much excess, or, as you mentioned, not meet our visual standards to be rescued. But you're not going to drop that off at a small food bank and then expect them to be able to handle that. So how do you guys handle those extra large farm donations?
So what we do is, let's just say we had a crop drop in Biloxi. We would activate our network, several counties away, and those people would come to the food instead of us taking the food to them. And so they take the food back to their communities, whether it's Laurel or Hattiesburg or wherever it may be, and they activate their network. It's all about activating the networks you have. And so we tell people we don't really ever get to see the end user of our food all the time because we're giving it to so many agencies. But we did do an event at Jackson State a couple weeks ago where the community was driving through. And we saw the people getting food, and to see their caring eyes and their love and their, hearts of thank you is a big reward for us. And we would love to go. I'd love to do a crop drop every weekend if I could, but it's kind of exhausting.
And it's got some expense to it.
It does. And speaking of that, endhunger.org/donate, because we always need funds because our food isn't always free, because some of our farmers charge us a pack-out cost, which can be somewhere around 10 cents a pound, which is a great price.
Right.
But we still have to find that money.
Because 40,000 pounds of sweet potatoes times, we were just talking about math. Math is always hard. It's very hard on a Monday. But times 10 cents? Okay. Will, you're going to help back me up and fill Rhino's shoes. That would be $4,000? Am I right?
I'm not. I'm staying silent.
Will's like, sure, I think that's right, but still, okay, but that's not like a small chunk of change for a nonprofit that only has 2 people in the in their thing. But speaking of volunteers, there's a lot of great ways that Mississippi can get behind Society of St. Andrew and volunteer this upcoming spring and summer. And spring and summer is coming, so we're going to give you something to do coming up next. I want you to also get the offer of going ahead. I know it's crazy. It's still below freezing most nights here in Mississippi or in most parts, but we're already thinking about spring break, summertime, and what you may do, especially if you have those students in your home that need those volunteer hours. You're looking for something fun or unique for your sports groups to get out and sort of have some community service, or your youth groups, particularly those character building activities. Yep. I mean, I think more Mississippians need to know about the volunteer opportunities with Society of St. Andrews, because you get to work with your hands, you get in the elements of what makes our state great, which is ag. Heat. I saw a meme yesterday that said, I sure wish Moses would have squashed them 2 mosquitoes, but we hadn't even thought about that yet, but it's coming up quick. So what all do you have, Langston, with Society of St. Andrew in terms of gleaning and volunteering this coming up summer? Yeah, well, it's a luxury for us to get to know ahead of time, really, when a gleaning is, because we depend on the crops and what they're producing, how the growing season went, and all that. We try to prepare as best we can, and the happy thing I'm going to report is we already have blueberry picking scheduled for the entire month of June. It's going to be every Saturday in June, with a culmination event the last Saturday in June on June 25th. This is in Shabuta, Mississippi, which is about 2.5 hours away. So it's kind of a long day, but it's very rewarding. This farmer has 1,300 bushes that we pick from. Holy moly. Yeah. My mom and daddy have like 3 bushes in the back, and I got tired of picking those as a kid. Yeah, it's fun. But on the 25th, we're going to have a name we're working on, the Great American Berry Bash on the Border, because it's on the border of Alabama and Mississippi. Who came up with that mouthful of a name? I came up with some of it, but I don't think it's going to stick. You know what I mean? It's a lot. But yeah, so we're going to have, we're planning on having music, maybe DJs, some activities. And so the Alabama office is going to come over, and we're going to pick a lot of blueberries. And the farmer's philosophy on that particular farm is you pick one, you eat one. So a lot of people love going to that farm for sure. But we'll have strawberries coming up before you know it with our strawberry farmers. So how's the volunteering work? I mean, if we have a group of 20, do we need a group of 2? Do we need a group of 10? Does it matter, Langston? Do we just need to reach out and sort of go ahead and coordinate with you? Can we, even if we don't know, and you can have them in the pipeline for... That's the best way to do it. So the best way to do it is go to endhunger.org/Mississippi, and there's a button on the top right that says View Volunteer Calendar. And when you click on that, it'll ask for your email address, I believe, and your name. That will automatically put you into our email rotation. So people will receive emails on upcoming events. And hopefully, like this one in June, they'll go out in time for people to do it. And I told you that we're at the mercy of the farmers and the crops, and sometimes we're going to be gleaning on Wednesdays. It's just not anything we control. We hate doing it on Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays because people are working, but we'll do it, and we get the job done. So we'll have plenty of opportunities coming up this spring and summer for sure. And that's your busiest sort of time with Society of St. Andrew. But again, now just sort of thinking through what you want or your plans, even if just getting on the email list, then you know what all is sort of coming up. Going back to, I mean, y'all are moving not just a few gallons of like blueberries, but last year you mentioned what, 1.3 million pounds of food last year. That included a lot of sweet potatoes. We actually we found an incredible corn farmer in Pisgah, Mississippi. I was coming back from Starkville one day. This is how my job works. I was coming back from Starkville. I look over to my left at Pisgah. I see all this beautiful corn. I'm like, I wonder whose that is. So I pulled off the road. I went back there. I found this lady on a porch, and I said, do you know who this belongs to? She said, I sure do. And she told me, she said, would you like for me to get him on the phone for you? I'm like, I sure would. And 2 weeks later, we're picking his corn. So it's just, it can be happenstance. God leads you to certain places, of course. But it's networking. And, I'll tell you a story. We had a truck that didn't make it last week, and I was very disheartened and disappointed and hurt.
because the last thing you want to do is not get food to people who need it.
Or think it's coming.
Yeah. And so I'm finally leaving around 11:30, and one of my church members said, I'm going to go in here in this room to tell these people that it got canceled. I'm like, oh, who's over there? And she said, well, it's 5 people. I'm like, are they volunteers for SoSA? And she said, well, yeah. So I went over there, and the best thing that happened that day was 5 strangers were sitting around the table having a conversation about how they're going to get involved with Society of St. Andrew, how they want to feed people, and how they know each other. And so that was the win for the day. So it's not always giving out the food. It's creating a new network of people who know about our mission.
Because there's so much that has to happen, and sort of, you mentioned that rippling effect. I mean, it all starts, and then the things are in place to make sure you have the volunteers and you get the food, and then you know how to distribute it, and you never know when it's going to sort of happen. But I think that's part of what we're doing today on Good Things, is just opening your minds and ears to the idea of Society St. Andrew. I know you guys are looking for more farmers, so we have a lot who sometimes listen while they're riding around their farm or doing their things that they do. What size farm? I mean, does it matter? Small farm,
Backyard.
Big farm?
Backyard farm, commercial farm, anything in between farm, family farm, wherever there's food that may go to waste, we want to come get it. One thing to know is we don't really do prepared food much. We will if that's the last opportunity for the food to go. So we're really a unique organization. We really concentrate on fresh food.
Which, going back to, I have my heart feels the same way about the fruits and vegetables across the state of Mississippi to be rescued and not make it into a landfill. That makes absolutely no sense. Just like the same, like with the trees that we talked about here, and the great people who are trying to rescue trees and not send them to the landfill. I mean, this stuff can be used and recycled. I mean, even though the food's not technically recycled, it's just redistributed somewhere else.
Right.
And a farmer never wants to see their hard work just get tilled up.
That's exactly right.
Especially when there's nothing, again, wrong with it other than
size, shape, ripeness, not ripe enough, all that. Yeah. And I'll tell you a quick story about that corn. They picked corn one day. It was white corn. The next day, the volunteers showed up, and they made homemade tamales for us, and they were still warm and they were delicious. So we got to see what our food went in less than 24 hours. So that's a very rewarding experience, too.
And I will say, too, just the gleaning's not also the only volunteer opportunity. You can volunteer to see where the food goes, especially with crop drops and other things. There are, I would say, 1 million. That may be an overstretch. But there are at least a dozen or more ways that you and your group could get involved and play a piece in rescuing vegetables.
It can be as simple as, do you have a truck and you're available to go pick up some food for us? At our crop drop events, we bag the vegetables, especially if it's sweet potatoes. We have pre-cut bags that are tied. We need volunteers to cut and tie our bags, so we'll have them on hand. We need people to pass the food out. We need people to just be there and socialize. We need people. We need DJs. We find things for people to do. It's just not that hard. Whether it's cleaning out a trailer, sweeping up where the potatoes were, washing, filling up the washing station with water. There's so many opportunities. But I think, too, there's so many opportunities with all nonprofits that
you just got to find where you fit in. And
heart.
If you fit in on a farm and you like a little sweat equity, then I think Society St. Andrews is a great fit for you, or for particularly your team, too, looking for those volunteer hours this summer. Where do we go?
endhunger.org, and my email is Mississippi spelled out at endhunger.org.
And let me make sure folks know that I have read my Bible. It was Noah that should have squatted the mosquitoes.
We all missed that, didn't we?
But I bet Moses squatted them too, just not the right two.
There's a joke
Thank
about
you
that somewhere.
for correcting me on that. But more good things coming up next.